Hey guys, I just want to do a 15th anniversary Dreamcast video. It's basically just going to be a collection video, but instead of going over every single game that I own and talking about each one of them, I'm going to tell you about which ones are my absolute favorites, and then I'm just going to plow through the rest of my collection. So in no particular order at all, I'm just going to show you a stack here of my favorite Dreamcast games, and right off the bat we got Jet Grind Radio. Very cool, unique game from Sega. Unfortunately they had to change the name due to some legal issues. It's actually Jet Set Radio. I'm sure that they could have done some finagling with the title, like adding the word like Sega Jet Set Radio to it, and they would have been able to get by, but they didn't think of doing that or something like that. I don't know. Jet Grind Radio doesn't really roll off the tongue. If you own a Dreamcast, you know exactly what this game is. You run around on rollerblades and spray paint graffiti on spots that are marked, and evade capture by the crazy police that drive tanks and stuff. It's a very fun game with cool soundtrack and a unique look to it. At the time it was semi-new, and a lot of games ripped it off. The cel-shaded look. And yeah, it's a pretty great game. Pretty tough. I never did finish it. So next up is Sword of the Berserk Guts Rage, or just Berserk. This is based on a very popular manga and anime. It's a very cool 3D beat 'em up hack and slash game. Single player, very, very bloody. I hear that when IDOS released this in the United States, they actually added more blood than the Japanese version had, which is kind of funny. This is a very good game. Definitely worth picking up if you don't already have it. Do it if you don't. Next up is Spider-Man. This is a port of the very popular game that was on the original PlayStation. And it was also on the N64, and it might have been on like PCs and stuff. This does not translate well to the Dreamcast controller, but this looks a lot better than the PS1 version. You can see the webbing on Spider-Man's hands in the game, which you couldn't see before. There's a lot of little graphical upgrades to it, and it's a lot of fun. This is a cool game. Camera's a little crazy, but at one point in time, this Spider-Man game was called the very best superhero game of all time. I think the Arkham series might hold that title now. Anyhow, here is the Dreamcast version of Rayman 2. As you know, it was also on the N64, and later on it was ported over to the PS2, and it wasn't as bright and colorful on the PS2 as it was on the Dreamcast. This looks absolutely beautiful. This is a very cool 3D platforming game from France, I think. Sequel to, the original Rayman, which was on PlayStation, Saturn, and the Jaguar. Very, very difficult platforming game. I was always looking for the Jaguar version, but I never could get one for a reasonable price. So the only version of Rayman 1 that I have is actually downloaded from the PlayStation Network. And here is Elemental Gimmick Gear. Long time ago, I saw this at Software Etc. Software Etc. And I wanted to buy it because it had the Hudson Honeybee here on the back, as you can see. I'm going to close in on it right now. It's out of focus, but you can see it, can't you? Anyway, it caught my eye because of that, and I asked the person behind the counter what he thought, and he said, those were his exact words. And I said, well, does it suck? And he said, yes. And so I ended up buying Soul Fighter instead. Big mistake. Anyway, I got this for $5 many years later, brand new at Electronics Boutique. Very first game I got from a Dreamcast, Soul Calibur. This game made me an instant convert. I was an early adopter. This is the very last time I was ever an early adopter to a video game console was the Dreamcast, and I didn't get it on the release date of September 9th, 1999. I actually got it on September 18th, I think, because I had to wait till I got paid the next week before I could buy it. And I couldn't afford to buy a memory card, so I couldn't save this game. And yeah, anyway, spent a lot of many hours playing this game, unlocking stuff, customizing the intro. You can do a lot of cool stuff in this game. Very good graphics. They still hold up today, which is very surprising, because 3D games don't age very well, but this one, it really holds up. It looks good. Absolutely a must-own for the Dreamcast. And let's move along to a later release. This is Mars Matrix, an arcade shooter. It's 2-player co-op. This is what they call a bullet hell shooter these days. This is very cool. Has a lot of unlockable material in it. It's one of those games where you can use a force field briefly and absorb the enemy bullets and then reflect them back at the enemies. But there's a pattern to it, and you have to figure out exactly how to do it. And you can actually make it through the entire game without getting killed. You can do stuff like that if you know the patterns. It's crazy. Played this in the arcade before it actually came out in the on the Dreamcast in Las Vegas. Very cool that I got to do that. I feel very proud of that. Excuse me. Next up is Tech Romancer. That's what the guy sounds like when he says the name of the game in the beginning. This is a fighting game. Very fun fighting game. See if you can see the back of it here. It's giant robots. Very Japanese-centric giant robots. If you loved watching cartoons in the 80s that were imported over from Japan and dubbed into English, there's a lot to love here. If you had Shogun Warrior toys when you were a kid from the 70s, there's a lot to love here. If you liked Robotech, there's a lot to love here. If you like Ultraman or Power Rangers, there's a lot to love here. This game is just fantastic, and it's worth tracking down. I love this game. It's absolutely a lot of fun. It has so many homages to classic giant robot animation, from everything that was, you know, like Mazinger Z to what would be Voltron in the United States, which was Beast King Golion for the Lions, and Dyruger 15 was the vehicle Voltron. There's a lot of references to stuff like that. There's references to Macross and other Robotech entries. And yeah, it's a great game. A lot of cool stuff to unlock, and you can unlock Bloodia 2, the mech that you use in Cyberbots, and I forgot the other game. There was a beat 'em up that had the Cyberbots characters in it, and I can't remember the name of it. But you can unlock that guy. And when you play this in story mode, each character has its own unique story that makes it look like an episode of a cartoon for that particular robot and their drivers. It's pretty cool, very cool actually, and definitely worth seeking out. Next up is Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. This game on the Dreamcast is just amazing. A lot of recognizable voices, like Michael Bell, who did the voice of Duke on G.I. Joe. Among many others, he was Hefty Smurf, and that right there, he was a Smurf. Cool game, cool premise, cool music, and just overall good game, worth buying. Next up is Bangai-O. Now this was an import game for the N64, and I'm very glad that they released this on the Dreamcast in the United States. This is just a great game from Treasure. The sprites in the game are incredibly small, but what you basically do is you fly around and you blow up as many things as you possibly can and make a lot of chain reactions with your explosions, and you get a higher score and all kinds of stuff, and you have to unlock levels. And it's a lot of fun to play. There's like 50 levels, I think. Really cool game. Definitely worth picking up, whether it's for the Dreamcast or for the N64. Just do it. Next up is Cannon Spike. This is a weird game. You're in a small enclosed arena, and you're on rollerblades, and you use characters from Capcom's many properties, including Street Fighter Alpha and Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Street Fighter 2, among others, and I think there's exclusive characters to this. A lot of fun, definitely worth picking up. It's kind of hard to find. It might even be rare, but I don't know for sure. A lot of fun. Definitely seek this out. Good game. Good game. And here comes some obvious ones. This is a damn near arcade perfect Marvel vs. Capcom. Clash of the Superheroes. Superb translation of this game. This is also on the PlayStation 1, but it sucks. You can probably get it on the PlayStation Network. I think there's a remastered version on the PlayStation Network now, but Dreamcast version is the way to go. And of course, I would be remiss to not mention Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is pretty much one of the best games that you can get on the Dreamcast. There are a lot of fighting games. Capcom released a shitload of fighting games for the Dreamcast, and this is one of the best. This game has, I think, 56 playable characters, or 46. Yeah, 56 playable characters, 2 of which are Wolverine. Don't understand why, but there are. And let me just move these aside. Those are the favorites. So next, we're gonna continue on with the collection, and we're just going to go through this very quickly. We've got the Dreamcast generator that came with my Dreamcast. This is demos, which includes House of the Dead, Ready to Rumble Boxing, Sonic Adventure, Power Stone. It has some video only demos, and here's some Dreamcast magazine demos. They're not in order, but you can kind of see. And then there's 2 games on here for the Dreamcast demos. There was 2 demo only games. One was Sega Swirl. That actually wasn't demo only, but then there was another one. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to look through these to find it, and I don't really feel like doing that right now, but let's see here. It's let's see, it's something like Super Boom Shred Troopers is what it's called. And it's basically combat. It's like combat, and it is on, let me see, Dreamcast December 2000 Volume 9 demo. Okay, so if you want that free game, put that disc down. It also has Sega Swirl on it. And then here is the 3.0 web browser. Very hard to find nowadays, but this, you had to sign up to get this, or else you didn't get it. And that was for people who had the broadband adapter mainly. It worked with the 56K, but I didn't have the broadband adapter because it was impossible to find. And then here is this thing that came with my Dreamcast. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's wrapped, sealed, and it's a browser. It might be a SegaNet thing. Okay, so here comes the collection. Confidential Mission, shooting game with the light gun. Very fun arcade game, 2 players, cool stuff. Record of Lotus War for the Dreamcast. This is basically Diablo with a license. Very nice port of Dino Crisis. Very collectible. Along with Resident Evil 2. Street Fighter Double Impact. This is Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter 3 Second Impact. And here is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is a very unique and bizarre fighting game. Lives up to the bizarre part of it. Spawn in the Demon's Hand. This is arena-based shooting, third-person shooting, arcade style. Kind of fun. You can unlock a lot of Spawn characters if you like Spawn. Gunbird 2, vertical shooter, very cool arcade game. Definitely, absolutely worth having on Dreamcast. Again, vertical shooter that's absolutely fantastic. Giga Wing and its successor, Giga Wing 2. Both are fantastic vertical shooters with 2-player co-op. Pretty difficult bullet hell shooters. The disappointing Atari Anniversary Edition, you cannot save your high scores on this for some reason, but oops, I still have the sticker it came with, and it was only like $14.99 when it came out. And yeah. Okay, so here is Plasma Sword. This is the sequel to Star Gladiator for the PlayStation. Arcade game. Fighting game. It's a ripoff of Star Wars. You'll love it. It's great stuff. Street Fighter Alpha 3 for the Dreamcast. Very nicely done port of Street Fighter 3. I mean Alpha 3. Kicks ass. Here is Dead or Alive 2. This is a wank fest for wankers who like cleavage and short skirts in their video games, because that's really all it has to offer. It's not a very good game. And one time I was chatting on the Dreamcast chat room with some people, and this dude kept hitting me up with a private message asking me how to get the nude code in this. There's not really a nude code, but the Japanese intro is available on the game, which has Kasumi topless in it, and she has no nipples. Alien Front Online got really lame after September 11th because all the rooms became like Nuke Afghanistan and all this other shit that was just like hyper angry Islamic people. It got really ugly in there. And people were cheating with their Game Sharks. This is the box that it came in, and the microphone is in there. And the ad for Propeller Arena, which also was canceled, but you can get it. It's right here. Here is a Japanese game that my friend gave me before I moved away from Tucson. This is Psychic Force 2012. This was released in the US. It was a launch window game. And I understand this is a ripoff of Dragon Ball Z, as far as I know. I haven't actually played this one yet, so I'll have to give it a shot and see. And then here is Fatal Fury Mark of the Wolves. This is a very cool fighting game, but it makes a weird sound when you play it. It sounds like the disc is in a constant state of loading. So I don't like really playing it that much because I'm fearful that it's going to make my Dreamcast break at some point. And then here is Metal Gear Solid for Dreamcast on Bleem. They call it Bleemcast on here. Metal Gear Solid. So you can play Metal Gear Solid on your Dreamcast, and it makes the resolution look a hell of a lot better than it did on the PS1. So here is Dynamite Cop, also known as Dynamite Deca or Die Hard Arcade 2. This is a fun 3D beat 'em up. Not that great, but fun. Lots of fun. Easy, simple stuff. You can beat it in like 14-15 minutes. Virtual On Oratorio Tangram. I haven't really got the grasp of how to play this game, but it is very cool. It's mech-based fighting. It's not the same type of fighting as Street Fighter. It's more tactical. It is very cool. And on the Saturn, you could play it online, the original one. So next up, we got Project Justice, which is a sequel to Rival Schools. Fighting game, 3D fighting game, kind of similar to Techromancer in the way that it plays. The Dreamcast version of Star Wars Jedi Power Battles. This is a lot of fun, kind of a fun hack and slash beat 'em up, like Streets of Rage, but not nearly as good. It does have some issues, but it's better than the other versions that are available. If you want to get a version of this game, get it for the Dreamcast, because they did fix some of the bugs in it. And here is another Japanese game. It is Last Blade Final. Last Blade 2 Final Edition. Very cool, very similar to Samurai Showdown. It is by SNK, and it is fantastic. And then here is King of Fighters 99, which is actually King of Fighters 98. This is superb. There's a really, really cool animated intro. And then here is Bust a Move 4, great game. Sega Smash Pack Volume 1, the only volume in the series. Zombie Revenge, which is a beat 'em up based on House of the Dead. House of the Dead 2. Sonic Adventure. Sonic Adventure 2, both very disappointing. Carrier, survival horror on a aircraft carrier. Resident Evil 3, also kind of collectible. Resident Evil Code Veronica. And Power Stone. So that is all of my games for the Sega Dreamcast. With one few exceptions that I'll show you very briefly, because my wife is calling me. Oh shit. My tripod is kind of fucking up right now. So right here are some homebrews, and I'll just show you very quickly that there are some very cool homebrews available, such as this is an 8-bit madness thing. It doesn't work very well. MAME doesn't work very well. Super NES doesn't work very well. Genesis doesn't work very well. Neo Geo kind of works. These Final Fight homebrews do work very, very well. They are based on a thing called Beats of Rage. If anybody wants copies of these, I will try and mail you the actual disc, and you can copy it yourself, because I don't know how to do that. And then here is every single issue of the official Dreamcast magazine, including this code book. And yeah. Half-Life and Unreal and Grandia 2, Phantasy Star Online. What's up, Tom? And Spider-Man. This is the very final issue. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Happy birthday, Dreamcast. And play your Dreamcast. Show it some love. See you guys next time, and take care.